And now please join me in welcoming Anne Laurent.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's see if I can get this back a little bit to the beginning. All right, now we're all set. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out early in the morning to hear a little bit about reflection on 2025 and how it went for the county. If you don't know me, I'm the county manager, and I am just thrilled to be here and honored and privileged to be your county manager. I want to acknowledge some folks who are here that are part of everything that you're going to see I'm going to present about. We've got Chair Righty, Councilor Herman, and we have a lot of staff here, so bear with me, and I'm going to show some pictures, but maybe I'll wait till the pictures to introduce staff. But it's a lot of effort. So thank you to the Chamber for putting this on. Sandy, Lauren, Jacqueline, Allison, really appreciate it. Thank you, Sala, for hosting. And I really like this room actually because when I did this last year, I couldn't see all your faces, and so it's a little less not knowing who you're talking to, I can see your expression, so I'm actually glad. A lot has happened. I can't believe a year has passed. For me personally, I know I have a lot more gray hairs, but they're well spent. So I'm going to dive in. I've got a lot of different slides, but I'm going to try to move quickly. I apologize in advance, but I want to leave some time. I don't want to keep you past 9, and I also want to leave some time at the end. So, okay. So my right and my left arm, Linda and Juan, are my deputies. The way we're organized is we kind of divvy up all the different departments at the county. And so Linda has community services. She has environmental sustainability, the office management. She has administrative services. And so she takes that load in terms of management. Mr. Juan takes on public works, takes on community development, intergovernmental affairs, and I'm probably missing something, but that's kind of how we divvy it up. And then I have police, fire, PIO, or public information office. Okay. Well, I just want to acknowledge the next slide is pictures of our senior management team, our leaders. These are all of our department heads, because as a county, we're not just one business, we're many different businesses. So we have Mr. Eli Isaacson, head of community development, Dino Scambalone, chief of police, Philo Shelton, utility manager, Alvin Leapart, county attorney, Eric Martinez, public works, Corey Styron, community services, Helen Praglio, administrative services, and then we also have Chief Wendy Survey of Fire, and then our new fire chief, Eric Litzenberg. Several of those folks are here today, and just really want to thank them for how we work. We meet weekly, and every week in senior management, we take off our individual silo hats, and we put on the community and the county hats, and we talk about make sure we're coordinated as an operation. And we say communication's easy, but it takes a lot of work. And this is all of us coordinating on all these different businesses that the county provides. Next slide. So in the county manager's office, we also have intergovernmental affairs, sustainability, human resources, broadband, and public information. And that's because strategically we're structured that way because these are some areas that council has really put a focus on. In fact, several of these positions are new over the last 3 to 4 years because we basically expanded the types of things we're working on in our strategic efforts, and these are the folks that are leading up some of the things you're going to hear us talk about. Okay. I'm going to talk about some highlights. It was a really successful year. We got a lot done. We also had some really big challenges, not just so much locally, but also nationally, that we're all kind of managing through. And every year the council gets together, October, November-ish, and they do strategic planning. And that's really for them to kind of give direction to us as operations. To talk about the different areas of where we're putting our efforts or our budgets or our focuses. Those are quality governance, operational excellence, economic vitality, quality of life, and environmental stewardship. Those have been the same 5, we call them goals. We're actually going to start calling them focus areas for several years now. And then under each of those goals, we put objectives. And what does that mean when we say economic vitality? What exactly are we trying to do there, for example? And then I'll wrap up with just what to kind of give a preview of what to expect in 2026.
Question off of that, do you do like short term and then long term? Do you like set like 6-month goals and then maybe 2 to 3 year goals?
We do. It's a little more complicated than that for us because a lot of some of the things we do are partnerships. Some of them are just projects that have really nice timelines that we can talk about, and some of them are in the planning stage where, it's a little more fluid depending on when we get approvals and things. So we do short term in terms of what our actions are, but we do sometimes maybe there's a milestone that we're waiting for to happen before we can set any new longer term actions. Okay. So some of the big ones that we know, most of you I'm sure are very aware of, Council voted to increase our local gross receipts tax by 5/8 of a cent. I think that's in the realm of $6-7 for $100 of expenditure in that realm. And that was largely because our gross receipts tax were declining. We have been in about 5 years of increased revenues, and we were in decline, and when we do our budget hearings for the last 2 or 3 years, we look 10 years out on our projections, and we knew that we were going to, in a few years, hit a wall and we were going to be in a situation where we were making cuts, or we were not able to fund the capital projects that were on our capital improvement plan list and expectations. And this also includes all funding that we do, our contractors, everything. We all build that into. And we all know what's happening, increased, inflation, cost of things, cost of labor, all of those things are increasing. And so it's not so much expanding the government, but it was about maintaining fiscal stewardship and making sure that we can afford to do what we do. There is also, I'll talk about that a little bit more later because there's a little more to it as well. Broadband, this is something that's been talked about in the community for decades, having fiber to every home and business in the community so they can have secure, reliable, high quality access to the internet. And we are really made some great progress in this because it's not just a plan on the shelf, but we actually have a funding plan. We actually have a contractor to help us design, build, and operate it. It will be county infrastructure owned. And so the fiber will be owned by the county, and it's called an open access network. I'll get a little bit more into that on those slides. We have really pushed hard on housing. We know that in the realm of affordability, whatever realm you are in income or situation, affordability is an issue and has a great focus. And one of the main things that the county is very well enabled to do is to subsidize affordable housing. It is something the state acknowledges is a really appropriate role of government to play in affordability and helping people who have housing who can't afford the market rates. And then we know there's a focus on economic vitality, and there's been a real focus on local business and really trying to promote our Local Economic Development Act, or LEDA, grants and loans that we can do. That's what we're enabled to do through the state for the purpose of economic development. We tried to kind of trim down the marketing and the process to accommodate smaller retail projects. It could be, expanding. It could be doing some sort of new equipment that allows them to increase sales, or something that allows, or extending hours that allows them to increase their revenues. And so those are the types of things we're trying to do and promote, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'll talk about challenges. One of the main reasons we're doing broadband is because we have internet challenges, and we know the world stops and when the internet's out. So that's been a lot of our challenges. We've had more internet outages. Sometimes they're contractors, sometimes they're in the county, sometimes they're outside the county. We know that I already talked about the declined revenues. There's also a FEMA grant we were really pursuing for one of our main Jemez Mountain Fire Protection Project that has been put on hold just due to federal government, a change of administration and processes and funding and uncertainties at the federal level. And let's see, I talked about the housing pressures, and for anybody who's got a business in town or trying to hire staff, and then when you do hire them, they're commuting maybe up to, we have people commuting over 2 hours sometimes to come work in Los Alamos. And then it's just about economic development and local businesses. Are there any other tools where, that the county can implement that's helpful to the community? And really exploring that and pushing that conversation. So we're going to have quarterly updates moving into the next year. I mentioned a little bit about the strategic leadership plan, and we have goals, and then we have objectives. And then what happens is then the leadership or the senior management team, along with their staff, put together management action plans. Those are all adopted in our budget book. So if you ever want to see detailed kind of things that are on the list and what the status is. And then we did implement a community dashboard based on those management action plans. This coming year, we're going to try to trim that down and make it a little less quantity, a little more quality. So the next slides, I'm going to just go through. I talked about the goals and the objectives. It's just going to be going through each objective under each goal, and I will try to go as quickly as I can. But we have expanded. I think we talk about survey fatigue, but we also know that it's important to get feedback. So we're trying more and more to do surveys, and then we're also trying to ask for feedback on the survey, because sometimes it's not always a great, you have to learn how to do it better sometimes, ask the right question. And we do so many different types of initiatives. It's not like there's just one type of survey that works for all the different things we're trying to get input on. We've had a lot of success with a new contract with Rept AI. And so what that is if a question comes into the county and it's like something that gets assigned to me to answer about the budget, why did we do this? I can actually, instead of contacting that person, I can actually just do a little video about it, submit it, they get a link to it, and then it also goes into a database on our website. So if someone searches our website for information on that topic and it's related to that video will pop up as a reference for moving forward. So we're getting a lot of good feedback. Zen City is a system we implemented to help us keep track of public sentiment out in AI. Or out in the social media world, because we just don't know. I mean, there's just we're not on every Facebook page. We're not on every different social media places, and that's the reality, is where a lot of people are putting their opinions on things. And so this is a way for us to kind of see if there's trends, see if it's positive, see if it's negative, and then if there's something about, well, I know for last year, internet outages was a big topic of interest that people talked about. Then we can do some more press release. We can do some more information. We can, use that as information when we go to council and say, hey, this is why we're saying broadband's important. And then, of course, we're still doing open houses, town halls, workshops, listening sessions. I think you've seen them on different pedestrian plans, North Mesa Rec Plan. A lot of those plans that we've been updating, I would say we sort of had a little bubble last year of updating outdated plans, and you're going to see less of those moving forward, because now we're looking at implementing a lot of the recommendations out of those plans so that they don't just collect dust. Intergovernmental relationships, we spend a lot of time building relationships with our regional partners. I mentioned a little bit about some of our struggles are also national struggles. They're also very much regional. So we're not going to solve housing by ourselves. We're not going to solve workforce shortages by ourselves. We're not going to solve shortage of healthcare workers in our region without working regionally and at the state and at the federal level. So we do a lot of work there. And we also have a regional fund where we have partner on regional projects. One is particular was Rio Arriba County is doing a assisted living type of facility, and we contributed monies because it's a regional facility. They also got grants, but it's down in Espanola. Those types are types of the projects. We also helped Espanola develop some parks for ADA and clean them up. And we also, with Sanai Services, who is the economic development arm of the Pueblo San Ildefonso, we provided an agreement with Philo's group to partner on our waterline project to White Rock along State Route 4, and they were able to put in middle mile broadband while those trenches were open as part of their broadband initiatives for middle mile. And we certainly do have a lot of, we continue to work on, and every year council reevaluates their state and federal priorities in terms of, they aren't things necessarily that we directly in our control, but we're trying to influence at the state or federal level. Primarily, at the federal level, we know there's a laboratory here, DOE, DOEEM, they're partners, things like that, environmental issues, and at the state level, all the things I'm talking about, affordable housing, health care, clean energy, all those things are things that are on our priorities. Fiscal stewardship. Helen, where are you? Take a bow. Her team, for decades, she carries the torch for Mr. Steve Lynn, and then others prior to her, Joe Deanna, Max Baker, of excellence leadership in fiscal stewardship. Los Alamos County is the gold star of how to put in policies where we really have accountability for how we spend our spend our money, and then also how we document it and make sure we have compliance, policies, checks and balances, and all of those things. So we continue to do that, and it's very important to us as an organization. We also launched open books. So if you go into our website and look for open books, you can actually drill down on different areas and budgets and see the expenditures in those areas. We are going to be working in the future on maybe capturing a few areas out of that and reporting, so someone doesn't have to kind of mine through all the information. Something like how many of our dollars are spent in local businesses, for instance, and use that as a metric. So we're going to start looking at that and seeing if we can highlight a few things to help people understand how we're spending our money. And then for the broadband, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we have a general fund, and then we do transfers into our capital plan, and then we also do debt service for capital projects. So that's high level how we're organized. Operational excellence, I think almost every department in our organization that can be accredited by some sort of third-party professional, national sort of standards that we can benchmark ourselves and get certification. So we've done all that we can in that area, and then we work hard to maintain it. We just recently, for our police and fire, went through accreditation, and both of them look very positive that we're going to get reaccredited. And we were also finalized, so I think most of you might be familiar with the National Community Survey. We do it every 2 years. This is a year we're going to do it. But from 2022 to 2024, we made progress in several areas. And I think it was natural environment, economy, and community design. We actually got excellence. We were finalists for excellence awards. And we were kind of surprised, honestly, by some of the topics, because there's some of the topics that we are most challenged in. But it's also because we've made good progress in that. And we're really looking forward to 2026 to see if we can make more progress in those areas. Okay. I'm just going to keep rolling. For operational excellence, sorry for our construction. We've been doing a lot of it, but the reality is we have a lot of the funding that we're putting into our long-term 10-year plans is infrastructure replacement. We all want reliable electrical. We all want reliable water. We all want good roads. So we're doing our best, and we're working with some lesson learned. We're working with implementing sort of engagements with people we affect on those projects and trying to do better in that area. We're also looking to replace Fire Station 4. We have some funding and we have designs. It's going to be right where Fire Station 4 is, but to the west. And that building is just antiquated, doesn't fit the staff there. It doesn't have place for women firefighters. It's just got a lot of the HVAC and just kind of keeping all the cancer-causing exhausts and things safe. It's just not at that standard it needs to be. Let's see. Elk Ridge is that mobile home community over on East Jemez, and they had a private gas line, so that's something that it's, again, decades old. I think it goes back to the 70s where they're putting in a new gas line and the county's going to take over that infrastructure. And then for the Hayes Mountain Fire Protection, you've probably seen the construction going up the Ski Hill Road. That's going to continue, and actually with some warm weather, I just heard from Philo last night that they're going to actually potentially do some paving so that make it easier for when we're all hoping the snow hits. Okay. For operational excellence, our employee vacancy rate over the last year has reduced a percentage or two, so we're doing a good job filling our vacancies. And in the past, we didn't have a lot of vacancies, but we've had a lot of people eligible for retirement, so we're really happy for them. And I guess I just need to say, Julie's one of those that's going to be one more month, and it's just, we're so happy, and we're also so sad because we love our employees and we've really built some good relations. But so we are filling them. We're getting some great applications, a lot of federal employee applications. I'm not sure what that's about. And so Bernadette Martinez is in the back. She's our new HR manager. Eric Litzenberg, our new fire chief, and then Eli Isaacson was hired for community development. And so we're all kind of really getting our feet on the ground, coming up with new plans, coming up with priorities, and just really getting reorganized around what our future is going to be. And I'll just share a little bit of note on that. I started with the county in 2008, and this community and this organization is very different. And I anticipate moving forward we're going to be a different organization just because the demands have changed and the way things are done are changing. And we have we implemented a pilot program to allow for some flexible scheduling during the summer months. It's hard for us during the winter months because the shortened daylight. We don't necessarily want people working on things that aren't safe during the darker hours, but I think that was very much appreciated by some of our work crews to have some flexibility to their work schedule. Housing. So we have a contract, if any of you don't know, it's the Santa Fe Housing Trust for first-time home buyers assistance and also home rehabilitation programs. So those will be tied to things like energy efficiency, help somebody replace their windows to reduce their utility bill, or ADA, if you need ramps built or something to your home, or things widened for your bathroom to be usable. So those are really great programs, and we contract that out, and that's a partnership. We've also approved 87 deed restricted units at the 9th Street Apartments. So those deed restrictions, for those of you who don't know, it's actually on the deed where it says that, and it doesn't matter who owns the property, but it says that you're limited on what you can charge for rent or what you can sell it for. And what the county did was provide money towards the project that's being used to rehab these existing units in exchange for those deed restrictions. But those deed restrictions, if it's sold or anything else, go with the property. And we're also doing some new developments with partners on A8A, which is down off of DP Road, and 20th Street. The A8A will have close to almost half now with some additional grant funding we're getting of the units will be deed restricted. The financial policy, so I talked about the GRT. And we know that our revenues go up and down quite a bit. They're quite volatile here in Los Alamos. We know that because they're generated by one major employer and the funding that happens at the federal level. Because of that, we have pretty significant reserves to be able to weather those ups and downs, so we don't have to continually expand and contract. We can weather through that and see that sort of up and down even out. However, because we know our baseline is going to be lower of how it evens out, when we increase the GRT, the thought was, well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. What happens if that's too much revenues? Well, there's a couple options there. One is council can decrease the GRT if in the future we decide we're taking in too much. We can go back the other way. That's a simple ordinance. The other thing that we've been talking about, council talked about, was prioritizing housing. And we're going to be in this next year's budget hearings talking about including a financial policy, something to the effect, and I don't want to speak for you, Helen, but something to the effect of if our revenues are in excess of this, we would then transfer it into a economic development fund for housing to use for this specific purpose. I talked a little bit about the Lita Retail Program. $400,000 was just the amount of additional funds last year that was transferred into the Economic Development Fund, where we actually put the monies out for Lita. It doesn't mean that it's limited to that. We do have a significant balance in our Economic Development Fund and consider Lita. We have about, 20-ish interests in Lita Retail. We have 2 that are very close to having an application completed that we can consider and bring forward to council when they get completed. And there's several good ideas. Several of the businesses, it was the holidays, they're just times limited. They've said they'd get back to it. But we don't have a time frame on this. We're not like closing applications. So if other people have ideas and want to come talk to community development, please do. And we're also very excited about this month. We're in the final stages. We've beta tested and we've sent to the vendor our business directory, which is related to our website, and we're going to advertise everywhere we can a QR code for every business can go onto this directory, self-load up their information. It's fully searchable by topic and what the businesses load as their services. And I even last night at the Board of Public Utilities, one of their board members says, "Gosh, you got to make sure every new employee at Lanall gets that QR code." So because a lot of folks that come up in here work, and they stay up here a lot and they spend their money here, but they may not even know about some of the businesses we have. But expanding that knowledge of what's here, and council spent a lot of time in a sub non-quorum working group of council to engage with some of the local business concerns. And I mentioned earlier about what is it that is there more that the county can do in this topic. They actually produced a final report. We're turning that into some actions, and we're going to be reporting on that quarterly this next year. And then Cities Work is an entity that's met with us. I think it's met with some local businesses. We haven't seen that report, but we're still kind of waiting to see if there's recommendations out of that, to see if there's anything from our permitting process or things that we can do better with. But in the meantime, the LACDC is helping community development do a focus group on our website, our handbooks for doing permits and things, to see if we can make them more user-friendly and helpful to people and more welcoming and not overwhelming.
I have a question. If we want to get involved with a local small business working group, how do we do that?
So the working group is of counselors. So I think it's a matter of, if you want to get engaged with that conversation, I would talk to the LACDC, I would talk to community development. You could also talk to the local business coalition. Okay. And CPACE program, we passed an ordinance that allows us to participate in that. It's a state program, but basically when there's a development and there's environmental aspects of that, it helps with financing doing that component. Because when you do construction, it's already expensive. Then you put on the cost of solar panels or something which might help you long term, but that first cost is just becoming more of a burden. This program can help you finance that. Okay. With the partnership with LACDC and with their Main Street program and with the state Main Street technical support, we did this last year pass an MRA plan for the Downtown East. In prior years, we had done one for White Rock, and now we actually have a handbook and we have applications. So if you want to talk to Eli or Anita Barella about that, it is now open. We haven't really done a community-wide press release. We've been sort of focused on contacting the people within the MRA boundaries directly, because they're the ones that can apply. But I do think it's helpful that other people know that there potentially is another avenue to say, hey, I've got some blight and what this metropolitan redevelopment area is really to minimize blight. It's how we're using it. It's not necessarily traditional. It's usually to sort of attract an outside business that then increases GRT that they used to do public improvements in that. That's a pretty traditional model for this. We're using it for partnering with LEDA and other things to say, we're going to focus on our public-private partnerships that the county can do to help redevelop these areas, get them occupied, and get them redeveloped. We also bought property down in White Rock, Longview, in that little section where it does a little U And people cut through the private parking lots. We bought some property so that we can do a realignment and straighten that out and build a new road. We want to create more like a new Main Street in White Rock. We're going to partner again with the Main Street at LACDC on design. Right now we're just focusing on abating the any hazardous materials like asbestos or anything or lead paint out of the buildings and demo them, and then we'll this next year enter into design process, and 2027, maybe 2028, hopefully we'll be constructing a new road through there. This is not my area of expertise. I know that we had a jump in tourism due to the Oppenheimer movie in 2023. I know we saw that decline again, and then we saw it come up again, but then I know we had the government shutdown and it was declining again. It was a challenge for us last year because the Bandelier chose not to run their summer shuttles. They contract with us to run the shuttle from White Rock into Bandelier. This year they really scaled that back, and we only ran a shuttle within the park. And they, if you were coming to the park and the parking lot was full, they were turning you away. I don't know how many times that happened, but tourism is something that looking forward to putting more focus back on this. I think when COVID happened and a lot of staff turnovers, a lot of our partners and us got kind of uncoordinated in this area, and we're going to put an effort on getting re-coordinated in the tourism area. The new public information officer that's going to start in February is coming from the Valles Caldera in PIO, and he has a really strong background in tourism, and I'm looking forward to his input and contribution to the conversation as well. Summer concerts are just continuing to be very, very popular. Sorry for the concrete barriers. We know people, that was on Zen City, people talked about concrete barriers. We know people didn't love them, they were never going to be permanent. We were trying to look for something that we could put up and down that police could have on trailers, but because, and just put them up for the concerts and then take them back down. But because of the width they needed and because it's such a long stretch of along Trinity Drive, it just wasn't going to be feasible, and it was going to take up an entire lane of Trinity Drive, and then we would have had to get a permit for road closure from the DOT. So that was kind of a last minute. We really feel like we need to do something. We are working on a permanent solution. It may not be up for the beginning of the concerts, but hopefully you'll see it going in this summer. And permanent bollards, there'll be some conversations going on with Historic Preservation Board, because Ashley Pond is part of the Historic District, as well as Parks and Rec, about how to make those attractive, include some landscaping, benches, other things to make them very pleasing, and not overly, and really complement the natural area of Ashley Pond. Yeah, we have a new marketing agreement with Destination IQ. They're just getting kicked off, but they have some fabulous ideas on how to better market Los Alamos as a destination. One of our big challenges on our tourism plan here is just we're pretty good with day trippers. If we really want our tourism to have better economic impact, we really need to figure out how to be able to have more of them be able to stay here and accommodate events like a hockey tournament or something like that, or things that will have people stay overnight and spend more money here rather than come up with their sack lunch and leave. That doesn't really help our economic development. Okay, fiber to the home. I started talking about open access network, and what happens then is we have a contracted third party who is going to seek ISPs or internet service providers, and they have to meet a certain standard. And then so you as a consumer would go onto this web page that our Bonfire contractor has put up, and then you just choose, and you choose based on, you'll see the different providers, you'll see they'll have different price points, different service levels, and those internet service providers, they bring in their electronics, they're the ones that bring in your router to the home, they're the ones that provide that, they're the ones that bill you. So we basically are letting these internet service providers use this infrastructure to provide service, but they are the ones providing the customer service. They are the ones, if you have a billing issue or anything, you're working directly with them, just like you are now with LANet or Comcast or whomever your provider is. Talked a lot about all of this stuff. And then, so the way it is now, we're going to be issuing bonds. Council's going to be approving the issuance of bonds in the February, March, February timeframe. And then that is basically debt service to fund the construction. The construction's about $35 million. It's in phases, about 5 or 6 phases, and it basically it's going to be phased based on where you're able to connect to the middle mile. So it's not based on which communities we like better. It's based on just what's a practical, like bringing in connectivity. And for those who say, well, that's great, we have community fiber, but if the outage is in Santa Fe, that doesn't help us. Correct. But we are also working with the Pueblo de San Ildefonso and other entities who are building middle mile, and so the bonfire, part of their contract is to procure 2 routes off of the town. We know Lumen has a line, but have a second route off the line, off the hill, sorry. And so that is part of the overall strategy. It's just not the land that's totally in our control, but basically you want to get to you basically want to get to somewhere like Albuquerque, Denver, Phoenix, and have multiple routes so that when there's an outage, you can reroute. I'm getting close to being done. Social services. So we have a lot of partners in social services. We are really a convener of all the partners and trying to promote and expand. And so one of the things that our partners did was the launch to really help with mental health and suicide prevention, and that's been very successful. We've also worked with LA Cares and other faith organizations to help with food insecurity and food kits. Nature and therapy guides. One of the things the county did was took the opioid settlement funds that the county received and put a lot of it back into social services and mental health support. And utility assistance. We have Unite Us, which is a software which if you come in to get service, the social service staff will help you get connected, and then as you get referenced out, all your information. You won't have to, every time you go to a different service or provider, re-enter it. They'll see all your files, they'll see all your history, and make it as user-friendly for the client as possible. And they've really tried to make themselves visible at libraries and farmers market and all those kind of places. But one of the really things that we're going to focus on this year is a project that the county council has funded for several years now. It's in an out year, but it's a new social service center. We're in rented space right now. As we expand, and with our providers, sometimes they need temporary space. We don't have space to offer them, things of that nature. And so we're looking to find a location for that, and we have some sites, but we'll have a public process to discuss that and select a site. Inclusivity and belonging. We do have an inclusivity task force that's getting very close to writing a final report and bringing recommendations to council in the March-ish, April timeframe. And we have worked on a lot of projects around ADA and compliance with our streets and our trails and our infrastructure. And the libraries does a lot of outreach and related to programs. So we continue to expand that and looking forward to seeing what kind of additional recommendations we get. Got the Urban Trail open. It's a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to the Canyon Rim Trail Phase 3 that'll connect in the basically the Urban Trail to the current Canyon Rim Trail. So having that connection, you'll be able to go all the way from down by the co-op for the Canyon Rim Trail, all the way up through town and all the way get to the Aquatic Center, and then tie into bike lanes that can take you all the way into Diamond Drive. So we continue to kind of focus on connecting the gaps in the trail, the multi-use trail system, and we're also looking to increase our ridership. With our pilot program we did this summer, it seemed to go really well, and if staffing allows, we'd love to do that again. We did get the chiller in the ice rink, and it seems to be working very well. Council also approved putting in a cover. So between those two efforts, we really hope to have a more full year multi-season use out of that ice rink facility. It was something that people were split about whether that was the right thing, but it really is about maximizing the use and meeting the needs of our community who want to use that facility. And I even remember decades ago, or maybe it was a decade ago, we did a bond to do a separate ice facility, and that would have been very expensive to do an additional one as well. So. And then we did talk about artificial turf. No decisions have been made on funding or where that would be. It was just a study to recommend if you were going to do it, where you would do it. There are pros and cons. It helps with water. It helps with being able to use the fields when the ground's still frozen. The cons is there are some environmental impacts to that, just as much as watering our fields as well. And something we don't often talk about, but our cemetery, but we are, having to do some work there too to make sure we maintain some more capacity in our cemetery. It's a beautiful place. If you haven't been out there for the Memorial Day service, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful setting. And public safety, we know people love, and we're very fortunate to have the public safety we have in this community, largely because we have a contract with the laboratory to provide fire service to them. We would not have the fire department we have if it weren't for the fact that we serve and are contractor to the National Laboratory. So they brought in this airplane to do some testing. They made it pretty, and we're getting off. That's another Zen City. What's going on with the airplane? Is there commercial service? It's done for testing. I think it's smoke machines that you go in there, and so no, we're not setting it on fire. But that's what that is about. It does not fly, but we are really focused on safety and traffic safety in addition to fire mitigation. Those are just two things that I think are near and dear to this community's heart because we have so many commuters, and when accidents happen, it affects us all, and when fire happens, it affects us all. So those are some really areas we do have new ordinances, so stay off your phone when you're driving. Hands-free is okay. And we're in the final stages of procuring the speed camera, so we're going to have a speed ticketing program. So it's not necessary. It's a different type of fine. You'll pay through a vendor, but yeah, we're trying to. Our goal is not to use it as a revenue generator. Our goal is to change behaviors and have people slow down. We are also still trying to have our own emergency operations center. It's planned for an addition to White Rock Fire Station on the southish side, if I get my directions right. But it's not fully funded yet, and we were hoping for some Homeland Security funds that no longer exist. So we'll see how we can cobble together money to consider that. But there is an emergency operations center at the laboratory, but if we have an emergency and it doesn't involve the laboratory, we don't make any of the decisions about opening it. And because we're so technology reliant, we don't have the ability to have the connections technology-wise over there because of security that we need sometimes. And we also we do offer a lot of support to our regional partners on like technical rescue or when they have an emergency. So it would be something that we could allow our regional partners to use if there's an emergency affecting them, and we want to help them out. So these are the BurnBot machines. They're very cool. I think you might have seen them operating down off the Canyon Rim Trail by Fire Station 6. And it's really about mitigating fuels that can increase fires. We also know that we get concerns about people who are losing their fire insurance. So we want to do everything we can to mitigate fuels to keep our fire ratings low. And we also adopted a wildlife feeding ordinance to discourage people from feeding the wildlife. And then we do have an active RFP to get a contractor to help us with a wildlife management plan. We get a lot of ideas. You need to put fencing here. You need to wildlife crossing. I need more lighting here. But I think we need to really look at that issue and get some professional recommendations of what would actually help us mitigate some of our wildlife vehicle interactions and just make sure that we are doing what we can. Okay. This is Mr. Strain. He was one of our retirees this year. We did replace our gas golf carts with electric golf carts. We do have increased our capacity to use reclaimed water for irrigation, so we're not using potable water. And we have received awards. This is a great partnership between DPU and the county and all the other county operations on embedding some of these sustainability initiatives into all of our projects. And we also are beta testing these mowers, these electric robotic mowers. They seem to be working fairly well. This helps us be efficient with our staff time. One of our biggest expenses at the county is staff and benefits. So if we can get more done with less staff, it's very beneficial for us. But they're pretty cool. But people have opinions about them. Let's see. And yeah, we did an audit on our recycling. We do pretty good. We're below the national standard for contamination, but I will give a plug for Environmental Sustainability Board. If in doubt, throw it out, because if it's not something we recycle, it can contaminate a load, and then we have to throw out more than even just that one thing. So it is important that we only collect in recycling what we can recycle. And we are looking for a regional landfill. So one of the things we do is we truck all of our waste all the way to Los Lunas, and recycling also to the Albuquerque area. It's a lot of cost and a lot of trucking and gas, diesel gas to do that. So having a regional landfill would help us not have to truck as far. We also know our regional partners would like to not have to do that as well. So that's kind of what we're working on, is a regional landfill. We also just saw a presentation last night at council where there's a company looking to do a waste-to-energy facility with OK Wingay, and that is another option for us where we could take our waste there to be part of generating clean energy. All right, wrapping up, looking ahead. One of our main goals for next year is just to keep our foot on the pedal. You know, this gentleman asked me about like what is our schedule, what is it that we're going to get done. And the reality is, especially on economic vitality stuff, is we just have to be keeping the pressure on 10 things. For the thing that is ready to move forward, we're ready and we're prepared, and we've been working on it. So part of it's just kind of keeping the pedal down and keeping track of all the stuff and being ready to respond. And so we want to be responsive. We want to get stuff done. That's something that's been important to me. It's just not in my DNA to go home and not feel like I got something done at the end of the day. That's why I like local government, is because I want to get things done. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Is the communication and the engagement one of the hardest things we do because people have opinions? Absolutely. And so we just got to continue to keep pushing and having those conversations. And my only request is don't take it personally if we disagree. It's okay. Like, I'm totally okay if we don't have the same opinions. Staff is totally okay. We are going to be going through customer service training for all of our staff this next year, our first half of this year, just to make sure that, you know, when we talk about things where we have conflicts, that it's not personal, because that's not how we're going to resolve it if it's personal attacks. We're going to resolve it if we come together and have really good conversations about it. So yeah, we got a lot of projects, a lot of priorities, and really happy. Thank you to all the staff that does all this hard work. Some days it's thankless, but the reality is we're here because we love what we do. We really do. It gives us a lot of meaning to serve the public. That's why you choose public service, so that even when you feel like you're under fire, you know that what you do is really important. So appreciate all of you, and happy to answer questions.
Well, first of all,
Okay.
okay, if you have a question, I'll ask you to come to the steps, and Rel will bring the microphone to you. We have some items as you leave. You can turn in your badge and pick up some of the items on the table outside. So if you have a question, just come to the edge, please.
This is one of my favorite pictures.
All right, I'll get us started. I have a question. I always have a question. I think this question is for Philo. Is Philo here?
Yeah.
Philo. Hey, I think I heard we were going to have a compost where we could bring our compostable items.
Well,
Do you want me to do it?
actually, probably it's Juan's project there now. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
one.
Had to get up out of his comfy chair.
Compost for the wastewater plant building. So.
Thank you. That was a little hard to get out of that nice comfy chair. So food composting is a program that we're trying to initiate. We've had a few different options throughout the years. One of the current areas that we're looking at is at the eco station. However, the land that the eco station sits on is not county owned. It's owned by the Department of Energy and we're under a lease with them. So we have to abide by all those lease agreements. And one of those lease agreements specifically says no open air composting. So we're actively trying to work with the DOE to change that lease, but then we're also looking at other types of composting type programs. It's called in-vessel, so it's more a containerized system. However, we are currently in the process of working on updating our 20-year lease that we have with the New Mexico Environmental Department to actually operate the landfill. It was a landfill, it's not a landfill anymore, but we do have the historic nature of the landfill. And so within that process, they're looking at things very closely. And so one of the areas that they've really focused on is new infrastructure within that footprint. So we're running into a roadblock there too. So we're trying. We really do want that because it does help with the waste diversion that County Manager Laurent mentioned. So anything that we don't have to take off the hill in the truck, we're all about. However, we do need some help with our partners to be able to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Laurent. I have just a couple, one comment and two questions. For the AI bot feature that you added to the website, I noticed that when I attend different planning and zoning, there was a great presentation on the housing developments last night, that the questions and the conversation is really key and important, and obviously everybody can't attend all the council meetings and stuff. And so when your bot feature is helping answer people's questions, is it able to draw from some of the video and transcripts from those presentations to kind of redirect and remind people? There's actually a lot of great content and information it explains, especially like GRT presentations and things like that.
That's a great question. I don't believe so, but I think those are great ideas. So if there's we should probably look at our boards and commissions for topics that we think have wider interest, and it's not difficult for us to create some sort of different video, because even when you look at some of the video on those, you're looking at a board, we can make it a little bit more engaging, but I appreciate the feedback that, making those topics that are of interest at boards and commissions and making some videos is a great idea.
And then I wanted to ask, I know that you all meet with the schools pretty frequently, and they own quite a lot of land and property, and you were bringing up social services and needs, and I know we have some other planning and building needs and goals. Is there discussions or goals to work collaboratively maybe on some housing or mixed use type developments? I don't know if that's already being brought up.
Thank you for the question. The one project that is active with that is the conversation about the North Mesa area, just I guess it's east of the middle school, looking at a joint project there to build some housing in that area. The school board wanted to wait until their newly electeds were seated, and so I think they're going to be talking about how they want to proceed at their February board meeting. But so we talk about that, but then it's a little bit of a complicated scenario where they have to sort of agree, but we're very open to being like their project manager or doing a call for some sort of development partner or facilitating the public input, those types of things. But that's the one active conversation right now.
I don't know how relevant this is, but where I'm Angie. Where do the phone calls go? I didn't know if this was an AI chatbot, but I called the police station a couple weeks ago because Mom of the Year locked her son in the car. But there was actually I talked to quite a few of the firefighters that were on the case. Whoever answered the phone, it took about 15 minutes before they could even find where I was at. And so my son was in the car for like 50 minutes. Luckily it wasn't the summer, I would just broken the door, but where do the phone calls go? Because I literally was right across the street, it was in the 557 Flats parking lot, and they could not find me. And so I was on the phone with actually 3 different people before they could.
And you called 911? Is that
I
what-
called the police station because I was like, this is not, like, it just happened. I'm
Okay.
right across the street, like,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
And it was pretty bad.
okay.
So I'm just curious, like, were they like, was that phone call like going to somewhere else, or
Yeah.
what happened in that? And
I would love to know what happened, so I will follow up with the police chief and try to find out where that call went and what the delay was. What I can tell you is if it's ever an emergency, call 911.
okay,
Don't
well,
hesitate.
so and the locksmith actually told me to call the police station, not 911.
Yeah, okay. But I'm telling you, please call 911 because we don't want to do that to you or anyone else.
Well, I guess my
who
question is, would
concerned.
it have been different?
911 absolutely would have been different.
Okay.
And there's a non-emergency dispatch. So the dispatch is located in the police department.
Okay.
And they're the ones that have all the addressing, all the computer-aided design addressing so they can find people. So that, and there's a non-emergency dispatch, I think it's 8333?
8222.
Oh, 663-8222. 662,
8222.
all twos, no threes. 662-8222. But if there's any concern where time is of an essence, please call 911 because they help all the computer aided. But I will follow up with the chief. If you want to give me your name, I'm happy to have him follow up with you and confirm what happened. And
Yeah, the firefighters told me I should talk to somebody about it.
Sure,
Ask them what happened,
absolutely.
so I didn't know who I should be
So,
talking
Yeah.
to.
so the thing is if something similar happens to you where you feel it's not really emergency, just call 911 anyway and say, one of the first things you could say is, I don't know if this is emergency, so then they
Okay.
kind of know to
Sure.
get it a little bit differently. So it's okay, it would have been okay if you called 911 for that situation.
Okay.
Yeah, we get that all the time.
Okay.
It's easier to remember, besides remembering this number, that number. Yeah.
right, but the reason I want to follow up with police is because if it went to a generic line, could it have been forwarded? If it was not finding somebody, it probably should have been forwarded to dispatch. So that's where I'm thinking. Thank you.
You were really nice.
Any other questions for county manager?
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.